Smoke. OVS, Old Virginia Smoke.
Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Luke Darnell. It's time to interview another one of the greats, David Bouska with Butcher BBQ. David is a multiple world champion and one of the most successful barbecue product producers in the world. His injections can be found in just about every barbecue cook site out there. Lots of great info here, lots of great stories, and lots of learning. So please join me in welcoming David Bouska. The Barbecue League is the ultimate barbecue experience. Here's why. One small annual investment from you instantly unlocks all 70 plus tell-all recipes, enthusiast recipes, restaurateurs, and more in their unmatched library. This isn't your typical YouTube type content. World champions like Getting Basted, Shake and Bake Barbecue, Heavy Smoke Barbecue, La Pasadita Barbecue, and 913 Barbecue share their full tell-all recipes. No secret is left unsaid. And a new video release is guaranteed every single week of your membership. You'll also see unfiltered looks from all levels of pitmasters during their live competition coverage. And those same pitmasters are accessible through the league's upbeat online community. As soon as you sign up, you'll also have a full arsenal of some of the best discounts in barbecue from brands like Snake River Farms, Blues Hog, Big Papa Smokers, Gunter Wilhelm, Gateway Drum Smokers, and more. The Barbecue League puts on members-only contests throughout the year, hosts live and virtual events, and offers full access league lounge at participating events. Listeners to this podcast can receive $10 off of the $100 annual membership this month only by using the code JulyPitmaster, all in caps, on thebarbecueleague.com. So I advise you to do this. It's been a great help to me and a lot of people out there. There is no better $100 spent on barbecue right now than the Barbecue League. So July Pitmaster on thebarbecueleague.com. Well, we're here today with David Bouska from Butcher BBQ. How are you doing, my friend?
We are doing wonderful.
It is an honor to have you on this podcast as someone who also has a barbecue podcast, but also as one of the most successful competition barbecue cooks and businessmen that have ever been around. So thank you very much for agreeing to be on.
Oh, I'm honored to sit and talk with anybody, but talking barbecue never gets old. So I appreciate you giving me a call. It just keeps me from having to put salt and pepper in a bottle and throwing it down the road for now. I get to do something different.
Well, I like to dive in on some, the way people cook and how some of their habits and some of their superstitions and some of their best practices, because I think that it really helps a lot of the newer teams that are out there competing to understand the mindset that goes into doing competition barbecue. And that's one thing that I've always been impressed by you, whether it's watching you on TV or actually watching you cook at some of the events that we've done together, is that you have a very, very extreme level of focus. How did you develop that?
Call it focus, call it OCD. I mean, there's multiple names for it. It's because I do understand, and I do believe that if you change one element in anything, you may not recognize the results until it's done. Mm-hmm. My family's a drag racing family. I shoot archery, but like in the drag racing world, if you want to just increase your ET times, or you say your 60-foot mark, whatever, you can't change the gap in your spark plugs. You can't change the air pressure in your tires or retard the tuning, the timing on it, and know what fixed it. So that's the process I took to barbecue. And I can't change brands of meat. I can't change my injection. I can't change quicker wrapping times or later wrapping times and do it all at once without understanding the end result. So when I would do a test a long, long time ago, let's say I was just trying to find out the best time to wrap. I understood the science of the meat because that's what we do. But for cooking barbecue, I had to wrap at certain times. Then I had to change my temperatures, wrap at certain times, change my temperatures, and see what temperature and what timing worked best for what I was trying to accomplish down the road. Just because it seemed like a good time to wrap, that didn't mean it turned out right. Because sometimes on ribs, let's just take ribs, that outer surface, you think it's the perfect time to wrap a rib, but until you're done, sometimes you get a little leathery outside feel on it. And that's just because you almost went, it's a couple things that I figured out. You wrapped a little late, or you had too much airflow or heat prior to wrapping, and just that surface was drying out before the rest of the meat could even start to get done. So there's multiple things to answer your question, my process works for me and I want to follow it. So that's it. I think it all stems from doing a lot of tests and understanding the results.
Absolutely. And that's the number one piece of advice that I give to a lot of new cooks is, you have got to practice and you've got to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because if you're just going to go out and cook a contest and throw it all together, you have no control over what's going to happen.
That's right. I agree.
Absolutely. What do you think was the biggest turning point in your life as a pitmaster?
Realizing there was contest? No, I would say the first World Championships in 2012. We won the World Food Championships, the barbecue division of it. And you always want to believe that your barbecue can stand with the best. And then after you win, not a state championship, but that top level like that, you then realized, hey, you got something here. And so that was really it. We'd already been selling our products and other folks was doing real well with it. We was doing well with it, but till you hit that benchmark, man, I think that was probably it. Cause that does elevate you to a new world.
Right. And you have to think differently. I think once you've hit that level, I think it changes your mindset, right? In terms of what you can accomplish and how you can move forward.
Oh, absolutely. It does. Funny story with that was we was cooking in Las Vegas and they took the top 10 teams from where they were doing awards, pulled them out front on Las Vegas Boulevard out on the main strip and started announcing the top 10, starting with 10 going down. And, you're sitting there listening and we knew we had some good calls, but that's it. That's all we knew. And they started listening them all the way down and they got down to 2 and they named the reserve grand. And both my brothers were just beating the heck out of my back going, oh my God, you did it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That was only third place. And I did not put it. I didn't realize it. They had to tell me, no, dude, you're the only, no, that was second place. That was third place right there. And I'm not kidding. It was absolutely crazy to have won it, and not even realize it.
I had a very similar experience at World Food Championships too, the year that we won. Mike McLeod started off with, and now the surprise of the evening. And I was like, well, there's no way I was going to win that. Same thing. They kept going down, and the look on my face when they called our name, it's still something that I'll always remember, and it's just such a great moment. Yeah. So you mentioned OCD earlier. Is your competition planning the week before a contest the same every week?
I mean, we're talking just like that TV show Groundhog Day. I set my briskets out of the freezer at the right time, the pork butts, and then Saturday evening the ribs come out. I've already purchased thighs. I go and buy the thighs at the stores. But Sunday morning, I start trimming the meat up. We re-vacuum pack it, get that all done. I get my injections made, sauces back into the bottles. And if we just got back from a contest on Saturday, then I start cleaning the trailer and getting the grates recleaned and getting that all done. Monday morning or Monday, I don't have a lot to do. Tuesday, I go to the grocery store and I buy my lettuce and my parsley. Wednesday, there's not a lot going on again. Usually I finalize anything I need. But Thursday, I make boxes, get ice, get all that purchased and in the deep freeze, hook up my trailer. Friday, I set meat out again for the next week, the briskets and the pork butts. We go to and it's a circle nonstop. And that's just how I've always done it. I trim my meat at a certain time or a certain day. And we just go with it.
I think it's really important to establish those routines. to develop that consistency, you got to do the same thing, I think, week in and week out. Now, I know a lot of people are successful that do it whenever they can or whenever they get to it, or, the nightmare scenario for me is trimming meat at a contest. I still can't believe that there's guys out there that do that.
Yeah. The way I look at it with the rituals, the routines, the practice, whatever you want to call it is military style. I was never in the military, but for their soldiers to be at whatever level, they practice the same thing every single time. They go through the same routine. If it's just as simple as marching, or gosh, I'm spitballing here, but you know what I'm saying? Anything that they do, it's a routine and it's done, and it's bred into their habits, and it's subconsciously done at that point. That's how I like to look at my competition. And when I go to the competitions, I get set up, I get my injections sitting on the counters. I pre-do my countertop. I've got where I'm going to inject. I got my pan with the liners. I got paper towels pulled down. I do the same thing all the way through turn-ins. I get everything prepped, and then at noon, I get started on injecting and getting all that done. 9 o'clock, I put rubs on. We do that. I do the same process, even through turn-ins. If I know I'm going to need 1 to 2 paper towels for chickens, we have that there. I pull the paper towel down. I rip it almost all the way off where I can grab it real fast and simple. We use 2 knives to put our chicken in a box. Those are sitting there ready. And it's just a quick process. But I think the biggest thing it's taught me is if I'm off in any setup, any element, anything, I know it before it gets there, so I don't have a surprise during the times that I need it. Like chicken, hey, as I'm going to sauce chicken, like every step right at the end of it, I'm staged. As soon as I'm finished one, I clean up and I get the table ready for the next stage, and it's completely done. And I follow through it. I was like, I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna grab my sauce. Oh, where's my sauce brush? I get my sauce brush and I have it ready. That way I'm not doing it while the food's sitting on the table. I go through a process. Yeah.
Wow. Let's dive deeper into your psyche.
Okay.
I'm already learning a lot, man. Like I thought, and I'm not an OCD person by trade. I am, if you ask my wife, I am all over the place. But the only time that I am OCD is when I'm in the barbecue trailer and having all of those things done, because that's what I've learned. Now, do you have superstitious routines and stuff that you have to do every contest?
No, just timing. But no, I don't have anything superstitious. We used to eat a ham and pimento cheese sandwich for lunch. And I hate to say it wasn't superstition, but if you're with me on this, you understand where I'm going here. You're living in Porta Johns for about 48 hours. The last thing you want is some spicy Mexican food sitting on your stomach overnight. Okay.
That's correct.
I'm going. We're going to leave your podcast nice and cleaned up. So we eat real neutral at a contest.
Right.
It's not superstition, but it was ham and pimento cheese. We left it at that.
So you could actually say that your process is probably your superstition.
Okay. I can go with that.
Yeah. That's kind of where I've fallen with myself, in that, one of the things that I learned from Tuffy Stone was that he pulls all of his foil at the same time that he's going to need that day. And it's something that I never thought about in terms of, here I am, I'm getting ready to wrap pork or brisket, and then I got to go back to the foil and wrap the pork. And why not do it all at the same time? And I know that it's done. And that was one of the biggest learnings I had in coming up, was if you can do it early, do it. And that way it keeps your mind clear to focus on the meat.
I do a lot of that. I don't pull all my foil at once. The things that gets me is, I got facial hair and body hair. I'm just scared that something's going to be on that foil 3 hours later. So
that's a good point.
So what I do is, like this, if I know my next step is rib wrapping, I'll get all 6 sheets of the foil pulled, and it's sitting there with my brown sugar, with the butter, with that. And I get my Pam spray because I spray my grates. So I put foil underneath my grate so I don't have to clean my table. I get all that set up. And then when it's done, I clean up. And if it's brisket and butts, which we wrap them at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we do have them stacked up in the order we want them. But now I don't pull it all first thing in the morning, get it all done and out of the way. I'm not one of them. I'm not OCD crazy.
I'm going to tell Tuffy you said that.
Hey, I texted him this morning. Go for it.
Are you a music guy when you're cooking?
I mean, the acoustics in my meat market sound a lot better than inside my trailer. So my singing is not as loud. No, I don't listen to music or anything. I just never have been one of them, but
Gotcha. Let's switch modes here a little bit and let's talk about investments and things and tools that we use in competition barbecue. What's one of the best or most worthwhile investments that you've ever made in competition barbecue?
my cookers, I think if you don't trust in what you're going to cook on or the product you're going to get out of it, then you need to continue test cooking or jump into another world. Yep. But I definitely believe in the pellet cookers we use.
Yeah, and those are great and they're very consistent. And I think they've come a long way, especially in the past 5 to 10 years, in terms of there's a lot of great brands and a lot of great cookers out there and I think it's making barbecue more accessible to people that aren't on the competition trail.
Yeah, I still use the Fast Eddies by Cook Shack, the pellet cookers made in Ponca City. The very first smoker, the FEC 100, the very first one I took to a cook off, I still cook on. I have had to change the controller because it went out of date. It was 18 years old, 15 years old, whatever, and it wasn't working anymore. I've added to the arsenal. I've added a second one, and I've got one of the pellet grills. But I still cook on the very same cooker we took to the very first cook-off, because I remember always thinking when we were going out all the time, first 2 or 3 contests, every time we'd go to, someone would have a new cooker. I got this over the winter time. I've been playing with this. Great. Y'all keep changing. We'll be right here doing what we do. I always enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to when you hear people, I just got a new cooker this week. Thought I'd bring it out and cook chicken on it. I'm like, ooh.
Yep.
Good
That's
luck.
what I do. You want a beer? No.
Yep. So cookers, that's a big expense. Do you have any purchases of $100 or less that have, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, anybody can go out and get, and it's really going to improve their competition barbecue life?
I think the next biggest thing, other than obvious spices, injections, sauces, that stuff, but I think the next biggest purchase is make sure you have the right tools as far as knives. Great knives will make your trimming easier, make your slicing easier. Ultimately, from there again, from the beginning all the way to the end, your box presentation will be better.
I agree with that. It's really hard. I was at a contest this weekend in West Virginia, and there was a new team cooking behind us. They were cooking backyard, and I was watching them trying to trim some ribs, and it hurt me because I felt like they were going to hurt themselves with the knife they were trying to use, and it was hard.
I would definitely say it would have to be knives. The second, next one would have been over $100, but yeah, for under $100, I would definitely say knives or something like that.
Yeah. What's your next one?
My trailer itself.
Yeah.
In 2000, I think it was 2011, I think I bought a gooseneck trailer, and man, that is the best purchase I ever made. Yeah.
Being comfortable really does have its perks.
Yeah. I've got sleeping in it, but we don't have any running water because I'm not vending. I'm not doing anything like that. We didn't want a toiletry, just 2 guys hanging out in it. We can run to the porta-john. I don't have a wife in there doing that. She stays home and takes care of the farm. But so, yeah, I think a trailer would have been the next big one.
To go back to the knives a little bit, what kind of knives do you use?
I like Forstner's, RH Forstner knives. My trimming knives are a 6-inch semi-stiff curved poly handle knife. That's what I've used for, 30 some years in the meat business. I'm just so comfortable maneuvering it. And then slicing, I got one of their beef slicers.
Oh,
for
okay.
slicing briskets and pork and stuff like that. But yeah, and in the meat shops we always use their knives. I played with Dexter's for a while, but I'm not a big fan of the high carbon that Dexter's have got in their steel. So I've always just stuck with Forstner's.
Right on. There's a lot of great knives out there, and it's really comes down to what you're comfortable with and how much you can afford. I have a Victorinox chef's knife that I bought probably 15 years ago, and I got it for like $40, and it has just been it's been my best knife that I've had in the, especially I don't take it to comps, but in the house. I mean, I think you can really, if you do the right research, you can find the right things for you.
It's the same knife. Forstner and Victorinox is the same company.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. What it was, Victorinox is the overseas brand and it's Swiss Army. And when they
Gotcha.
came to the United States, they started to start branding it as Forstner or vice
Got it.
versa. It's one of the two. I don't remember how it rolled, but it's the same. Victorinox, Forstner is the same company. So you're using the same brand I've got. Yeah.
There we go. Awesome.
Or vice versa. I'm using the same you got.
Awesome. That's fun. And one of the things I like to talk about on here, because we all have love to tell our success stories and how good we are, but I like to talk about failures and failures where you learn something at a competition that really helped you moving forward. Do you have any favorite failures of yours?
Yes, I'm going to start with a testing failure and then get to a competition failure. One of my testing failures I was doing was our grill product was started out as an injection. And when I was testing with it, I was injecting our chicken and we were sitting at the house, we cooked it, and the wife and I was sitting there tasting it and checking it. And I was playing with everything that you can imagine in a product. And we was using beet sugar in it instead of regular sugar. And it was actually had beet juice in with it also. Okay. Oh. Well, you know what the color of a beet is? It looks red, it's quite bloody looking. And the inside of that chicken stayed red and bloody with the beet juice. And it was hard knowing it was cooked to 200 degrees, biting into it and it just be red and red juices dripping. I thought, well, failure number one, you got to take beet juice out of your injection. Nobody would want to eat a bloody looking chicken. That was one failure. And another one was I was playing with some sausage spices that we put into another line of products that we have. And I actually had some garlic that was in it that was a real green color. It was just really unique, but I really liked the punginess of it. And I thought, well, hell, I'm going to inject some pork with that, just see what it does, just to get a quick flavor with it. Well, it turned it green. I mean, we're talking just as green as you can imagine. So lessons learned on what you're putting in your meat, definitely test cook with it. But as far as competitions, I was cooking out in Garden City, Kansas several years ago, 6-7 years ago, maybe 8, I'm not sure. And I was cooking solo. And I remember we got to my chicken, first turn in, and I was picking up chicken. There was this one thigh that was just blown up, huge, giant. And by George, I wanted that in the box. I just knew it was full of juices. And I used toothpicks at the time to hold my skin in place. And I pulled out the toothpick and it come out just halfway. Oh, so I reached down, I grabbed the other side and I pulled it out and put it together. Okay, we're good. Pulled it out and kept going. Well, 20 minutes later, and it was the wrap. The very center of that toothpick was broke off in it. So even though I did all I could do, we ended up getting DQ'd for that. There's no doubt about it. And I'm going to tell you, for a year and a half, I was shell shock. And every time I'd hear a golf cart or something, or someone would knock on my door in between turn-ins, I'd freak the heck out. Oh my God. I was bad. I was real bad. But the lesson learned was I went to metal skewers and I never had to do that again.
Right.
I took care of the wooden toothpicks. I now use metal skewers and that's done. So that's the biggest oops I ever did in a contest.
And it's so funny when we're on our trailer and you see a rep out walking around during turn-ins, you're like, you better keep walking, buddy.
Yeah. That was actually a double weekend. We picked up from one town and drove 20 minutes south and did another contest for Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then we got to turn-ins. We was going through it again. And on chicken, I got a knock and I went, what? Who is this? And I opened the door and there was the rep. And I went, oh, no. And he came to me and he told me, he says, dude, your chicken was raw. He says it was undercooked. And I said, there's no way in hell. I said, let me see. And that's when they just start taking pictures. And he showed it to me. I looked at it and I'm like, that's not my chicken. He said, yes, sir. It sure was. I said, no, you know how you know what your meat looks like or finished product? And I looked at it, I said, that is not my chicken. That's not how mine looks. That's not my chicken. He said, yes, it was. The table captain said it was this number and that's yours, blah, blah. And I was pissed then. I mean, I was furious mad. The very next day, I was kicking gravel mad. I in between that and ribs, I was walking around kicking gravel outside. I was furious. And I had decided I'll beat this system. I went back in and you remember the old TV show, the Pitmasters, Jamie Gear decided that he was going to take care of them judges and he was going to put cayenne pepper on. Well, I decided I was going to Jamie Gear my ribs. I was done with this contest. There's no way that, and I stopped and I thought to myself, that's not the way to be. So I didn't do it. And I thought, you're out on chicken again. Let's just go for points. And that's what I decided to do. And I turned in my ribs, and the rep, I just turned them in. I turned around and walked. And then I went to turn my pork in and he went to say something and I walked off. I was still upset. I walked off to go get brisket done. And in between pork and brisket, I got another knock.
Oh,
and I went, oh, hell no. Opened the door. There was the rep. And I went, what? And he says, I come on bent knees. And I said, what do you mean? He said, that was not your chicken. Excuse me? He says, I want you to know the table captain made a mistake on the number, told us the wrong number.
Oh my.
So your chicken was judged and we got it in the score. I said, I said, you're serious? He said, yeah. I said, the only thing I ask is, did my chicken get judged in the proper timing as everybody says? He said, yes, it did. I says, I'm good. No big deal on me then. But I about messed up my ribs thinking my chicken was screwed up.
Right. And this all happened in the same weekend.
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, sir. So,
man, I'll tell you what, one thing that we do, we take pictures of every box before it leaves the trailer.
It's something I don't get into is I don't know. I just never.
The only
reason I've taken a few.
The only reason we do it is for that exact situation. Is if they come back and say, "Hey, your chicken, you only had 5 pieces in the box," and I can just pull up my phone and be like, "This was my box."
Yeah.
You have proof that it's. And I forget why I started doing that. Somebody told me to do that. So I literally have a picture of every box I've ever turned in. See, I don't, but it was just like that. I remember looking at that chicken thigh and it was a super deep, dark red, beautiful mahogany look. Mine is a little lighter in color. And when I looked at it, I'm like, that's not my chicken. Yeah. I know he thought I was being defensive, but I was being sincere as just explaining to him, that's not my chicken. And it sure was. And we both learned lessons. And that's what he had told me. He's like, look, I learned a lesson before I go talk to a team. I'm going to double check everything on my end before I mess up your day. Right. And I'm like, well, I learned something too. I learned not to put too much spice on my ribs for a finishing dust because I didn't do it, but thank God I didn't do it. Right. And come to find out, a guy out of Colorado backdraft, it was his chicken. He got DQ'd and we was teasing after the contest going, I wish it had just been one of the two of us and not both of us this weekend. But yeah, big lesson was just that right there is keep calm, take a deep breath, evaluate very quickly the win method. What's important now? Well, keeping your head straight, knowing your final outcome is what's important. Don't
Don't knee-jerk reaction.
What's important now? That'll probably be the name of this episode. That's
Yeah.
that's great.
That's what I used to do in the meat markets is, the way I always explain to people, meat business is very circumstantial. And you can say this with barbecue and about half the other world, but the more circumstances you've been in, the more you know what to do. So you evaluate every minute on the minute, every hour on the hour, every day on the day, what's important now. So you build a list, your to-do list, basically. What's important now? That's at number one. In an hour that might fall to number three, and number five is now what's important now. So it's a win method is what we used to always call it. What's important now, but it's the circumstances, knowing what to do at a certain time to make your final outcome proper. Yeah.
Wow, my team's not going to enjoy seeing that on the wall of the trailer in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, I can't wait to put it up. Have you ever had a breaking point moment that made you almost quit competition barbecue?
No, not quit competition barbecue. I love just cooking and Friday nights gathering around, and the awards is the final deal. But let me tell you that the rest of it is what's important to me. I really, really like just socializing and visiting with people. Everybody goes through slumps, and I would say if you go through a long slump, that'll sure make you question what you're doing. And it really makes you wonder if your process is what it should be. But as far as something overwhelming, no. I've had some really great moments in barbecue that outweigh anything else. We have met some lifelong friends in this world and will continue to be. The travels that barbecue has allowed me and my brother and my wife and my family, my mom and dad, the total travels that we've been able to get out of this, even my boy, is something I never would have had if I just been standing in my meat market cutting meat all day long. There's a couple things that come to mind that, to me, that other people have done that makes me proud to be in this. And one of them, there's a huge contest coming up this fall that takes a lot of flack from a lot of teams, and that's the American Royal. Okay. They catch it all, but I want to tell you a scenario that they did for me that put them on the top pedestal for me for a long time coming. A couple years ago, it was a Tuesday, the week of the American Royal. My meat was trimmed. Okay. I had just gotten back from going and getting lettuce and stuff on that Tuesday because I was going to make boxes early since it was a double header and we were going to leave on Thursday. Okay. So Tuesday evening, my dad passed. Okay. Wednesday, we called the American Royal and just let them know, hey, folks, I'm not going to make it for obvious reasons. And I explained why. And all I asked of them was, can you hold my spot for next year? Because we had a wonderful spot. We were a minute from turning it. Okay. And there we are with everything going on in life. I'm worried about my barbecue spot for the American Royal. But I just asked him, I said, y'all got a lot going on. I got a lot going on. And it was all done on an email. And first I called to just say we weren't making it and then talked to the right lady. Anyway, email process the next week after things were settling for both of us. And I emailed them and told them, hey, I don't remember who it was I spoke with, and laid the scenario out. They emailed me back within a couple of days and says, yes, it was me. The lady said it was me you spoke with, and says they were apologetic and sympathetic for everything that had happened. And they said, we cannot give credit back for your porta-john because it was rented, it was on site, and your electric because it was ran and it's there. But they gave me a coupon code to where the 2020 I could have it to pay for my space.
Oh wow!
Was that not phenomenal?
That's phenomenal.
Mean, I didn't ask for that. I did not. But they stepped up and says, we're taking care of one of our teams. And I was like, that is awesome. Well, then you know what happened last year? The year I used the coupon to sign up, COVID hit. We didn't get to use it.
Didn't get to use it.
They sent me an email this year and says, we redid your coupon. You can reuse it. I didn't call them. I just was ready to pay for it. They turned around and sent me a new coupon code.
That's
for
fantastic.
2 years back. That's right. Those little things is what I want to live up to be also, in this world. They went above and beyond, and I would have to go back and look and see who that lady was, but I'm telling you what, the American Royal stepped up and did civically and sympathetically what I wish that everybody else would do too.
Absolutely. That's a great story. And then that's, I will always cherish that places because the American Royal as where I think that's where you and I met first, was at
Very
the
possible.
American. I call it being trapped in a barbecue snow globe for 4 days. It is.
I've not heard that. I like that.
I mean, you're in there, and everything and anything that's barbecue is in there, and anyone you talk to loves the sport just as much as you do. And it really, I told my team, this was before the 2019 Royal. I texted them and I said, "Hey, we're signed up for the Royal," and they were like, "Well, we're not qualified for the Invitational, so why are we going?" And I said, "Because I don't ever want to miss this, regardless of whether we're qualified for the Invitational or not. It's just something that I never ever want to miss, and that'll be true for as long as I do this."
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's really great for new teams that haven't got to go for the year, get that deer in the headlight look out of your way, and remember, it's still a contest.
Right.
That's what I tell people about the Jack all the time. Go before you get in, walk around, see what it is, go help another team, do whatever, because come Friday evening, there's still a lot going on for the festival, but it's still a contest. You better be following your program. That's
Right.
what it boils down to. So, yeah, if you're going or a new team wants to go to the Royal, go get it out of the way, look at everything, attend it, but remember what you're there for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. We were the team behind us this past weekend in West Virginia. They won their first GC, and it's always exciting when someone does that. And they were just two of the greatest guys that we've been around in a while. And I got back there to the trailer and I looked at him. I was like, "You better." I don't know which Royal this gets you signed up for, but I hope you guys go. And they were like, "Oh, we're 100% going."
Good.
Uh, so yeah, that is a big shout out to Alia. Congratulations on your guys' first GC. You guys are fantastic people, and we just had a blast with you this weekend. I normally don't ever do that, but I can't illustrate enough how much fun I had meeting them. They were just great guys. Got a few more questions here, and these are things that I'm really interested in you because you're the answer to a lot of these questions from other guests. And so I'm interested to hear your answers and who has impacted your life the most in competition barbecue.
For the longest time, I stayed right here in Oklahoma and did a lot of cooking. And I've said this many times. There is a handful of guys here in Oklahoma that I look up to, continue to look up to, and will always look up to. And I'm going to give him a shout out. Bart Clark with Twin Oaks Smoking out of Stillwater,
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma. He was cooking when I got in it. He is slowly slowed down now, but he's still a great cook. And I guarantee you, he'll wax anybody if you turn your back on him long enough. He will be there. Donnie Till with Buffalo's Barbecue. Man, the man's been cooking well over 30 years. He's still cooking and still doing 20, 25, 30 contests a year. He's a machine. Paul Shoddy was with Head Country too.
Mm-hmm.
Passed away last year, but
Oh.
Paul Shoddy was a really good friend of mine. And I remember I was probably cooking 5 years. And I remember Paul coming into my trailer and saying, "Hey," he had a question about what barbecue sauce was out there a lot right now. And he left, and I turned and looked at Martin, my brother, and I said, "Oh my God, Paul's asking me about what sauce I'm using." I was blown away. I was honored, totally honored. Yes. Here in Oklahoma, Joe Davidson, he had just kind of stepped back a little bit out of the cooking, but he was big in the business a lot. So the first three, absolutely the highlights and people that I look up to in this. And then there's I'm going to say peer level 2. You got Stuart Powell with Cook Shack. Edmar and Fast Eddie. And then that's probably where Joe would come into it. But when it comes to cooking, those are probably the ones that taught me a lot in how to do this. I remember them helping me read my score sheets and how to go through them and read in between the lines and all that. Just so much there that those guys have just got world of experience.
That's great. That's a lot of names that I need to do some research on and potentially have on the show.
Oh, I tell you what, Bart and Donnie both would be fun to have on your show. Yeah.
I've already interviewed Donnie, and it was probably one of my favorite hours of doing this. That guy.
Yeah.
He has an entire list of gas station foods that he has to have. And they're absolutely the worst things in the world. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a Tijuana Mama, but I went and got one.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
And I called him. I'm like, Donnie, dude, come on, man. You don't really eat these, do you?
Yes, he does. I've seen them at the contest. They are if people don't know what they are, I'm going to say, look at the size of your thumb. They are a vinegar flavored hot link. That's about, and like mush and texture. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand it, but the only thing that's worse than them are pickled eggs.
I can even stomach a pickled egg. I think I could take a pickled egg more than a Tijuana Mama.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about food, do you have any favorite pre, post, or during competition meals?
Well, if I don't eat a ham and pimento cheese, it's just going to be something real simple. Sometimes it's just chunks of cheese and crackers or something. But after a contest, if I'm traveling and we're going to have to stay in a hotel overnight or something, probably pizza. I don't mind good Mexican food afterwards, but
just not during.
One of those two. Yeah, just not during.
What's the most surprising thing to come out of competition barbecue for you?
A livelihood.
Yeah,
that's simple. I would have never have thought that I own a couple warehouses here and employ people that ship products with Butcher Barbecue logos on it. It's just phenomenal to me to think that. Yeah.
It's amazing the range of products that you've come out with, and it's amazing the range, and it's especially amazing to me knowing the process and the testing that you go through to do it. That's absolutely, I think, just legendary in my mind. It's amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. There is a ton of work in it, and as I said, through COVID, I didn't want to become irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we stayed and we got harder and heavier into so much different things. And it's showing this year. We've got a whole line of stuff that we've introduced that was all due to sitting around too long last year.
Yes, there's a lot of similarities in our story. I released my first barbecue sauce during COVID, and really just because I was bored and I needed something to do. So
it would have been easier just take your money and throw it in the blue sky. Sometimes you think, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. People tell you all the time. They're like, "Oh, you should do this," and I'm like, there's not a lot of. You're not going to get rich off of putting a barbecue sauce in the world. And it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding once you see it and you get the product and you give it to people and they're super happy with it. And yeah, I mean, I know as someone that uses a lot of your products in our trailer that we really do appreciate all the hard work and effort that you've put into it.
Well, thank you. You know what the hardest thing is for us? To keep the product itself consistent.
Yeah.
There really is. Everything, the packaging down, especially for the last 16 months. But we have done such strides in making sure that we can stay and take like our injections in that square canister. You don't realize how hard that's been to get those. Yeah.
Yeah. Packaging, shipping, everything has been a challenge over the past year and a half.
Yeah. So kudos for coming out with something. That's all I'm going to tell you.
So, if you had to give a piece of advice to a smart, young cook who's about to enter the world of championship barbecue, what advice would you give to them?
Take up table tennis.
You just saved somebody 50 grand right there.
No, go in ready to enjoy life, but always have an open book. A year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, barbecue evolves just like we evolve, just like cooking evolves. There was one gentleman several years ago, was down in Florida, and he'd won his first grand champion at his very first contest he ever went to. He called me. I was using your stuff. Oh my, just blown away. He went probably 2 years before he ever got a reserve again. And we stayed in touch. And he was probably 3-4 years into cooking. He'd started winning again after his first one. And his job was going to take him away from barbecue. He worked for the post office and he was having to move out of state. And the position he was taking, there was no time. He was scared that he was going to lose his edge in competition barbecue. And I explained to him that barbecue is not IT work. It's not computers. It's not electronics. Go out a day and get sophisticated, a better level. It's not that. If you know how to cook, how to run a fire, and how to apply spices properly and have them married to the sauce, you'll be just fine in 5 years. That doesn't change. The type of flavors will change, absolutely. But that's the biggest thing is don't get discouraged. If I'm telling someone's coming into this world, I would definitely say learn to cook the meat properly before you decide that rub's no good or that sauce is no good. Make sure you've given every possible avenue that your process and your meat is good before you want to change it and do wholesale changes. That's one of the worst things you can do. But if you want to get into the business, man, it's a wide open business. How much time do you want to dedicate to it? All the way down to, I think competition guys evolve just like yourself. They want to get into either catering or a food truck. They take the next step. Pipe dream, man, I'd like to do a restaurant someday. Well, it's if you can't cook meat properly, 1-2 briskets at a time, how do you expect to cook 5 or 6 for catering? How do you plan on cooking 20, 30 for a restaurant? And the evolution goes up. So start right now and perfect your pit mastering skills before you go to the next level.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. You have to cook it right before you start worrying about flavor profiles and things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now we're my favorite part of the program, David.
Okay.
The rapid fire questions.
Oh, I like these. I do something similar myself.
These are great. What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
Oh, I've got this juicy brisket and I'm squeezing it and watching all this fat between the layers ooze out. And they think that they're showing people the juices in the meat. And all they're doing is squeezing fat. That's my pet peeve. Quit squeezing your brisket. Quit squeezing the fat on your brisket to show how much juice is not in your brisket slice. And I've got one other on that one. Quit showing me your brisket over your finger. That doesn't tell me it's tender. How does it chew and how does it bite? That's tender.
I've never understood the post of the brisket over the finger. I'm like, that's okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. We share that one. I already asked the meals question. What's your favorite present that you like to give to people?
Present? Like barbecue present or kids or
any gift? Do you have a common gift that you give to people?
I don't have a common gift other than a handshake. And if I shake their hand, I'm going to be a friend forever for them until they do me or my family wrong. I don't really know of a gift. Yeah.
I give people underwear. So
underwear.
Yeah.
Interesting there. Now, can I throw rapid fire at you?
Sure.
How did that get started?
So Okay, I've been a fan of this particular brand of underwear for a long time. It's called meundies.com, and they're soft, they're moisture wicking. You never have any of those problems that you can associate with moisture and underwear during a barbecue contest. And I like, I would meet somebody that I'd wanted to meet for a long time and became friends with them. So I'd send them a pair of underwear. And it kind of turned into a thing. Like I was, I've sent at least 20 guys a pair of underwear. Now all those guys are fans of that underwear too. So it's just really
Perfect.
weird. Yeah. So
but okay.
maybe we'll have an offline conversation about your size and style.
Let's keep it offline.
Absolutely. Don't want 40 pairs of underwear showing up at your house. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
Man, I hate to be so generic and coin, but I just like being friends with people. If there could be something simple as that, like I said, shake a hand, help someone out. Don't get me wrong. I work hard for what I got, but I like teaching and helping people. So maybe something that lines, but I don't know. I've never really thought much about it. Go have fun.
There you go. That's
I do cherish the time I've got with my mom now, my brothers. We're all getting old, and you don't realize it till you get old that things are limited now. So hug everybody and be friends with them, because you don't want to be mad at them.
Right. And that time is super important.
You bet it is.
I won this past weekend, and it's the first time that I won with my dad there.
Awesome.
And I'll remember it forever.
Right.
And that's something that you can't ever replace. And it's something I've always wanted to do. So, and yeah, you saying that really, really hits home for me.
All right. I'll tell you this. You got time for just a real quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. My dad used to come him and mom would come out and go to the local contest and sit around, and we'd always go out and hand him a rib, hand him a chicken, hand him the brisket. Dad's thing was always ribs. He loved ribs. And we talked about a gentleman earlier, Donnie. Mm-hmm. And Donnie and Dad got along real well. And I didn't realize this until after Dad had passed. Donnie was telling me this story. I never knew this till after Daddy had passed. Okay. I'd give Daddy a rib. Oh, that's a good rib. Or he was my best critic, because he would tell me that's not as good before. It's this or it's that. He was very critical. He judged me like I would want someone to say, oh, that's a great rib, and it'd be sucking. Okay.
Yeah.
I always went to Donnie and would eat Donnie's rib too. All right. After he passed, Donnie came to him and he told me this story. He says, your dad used to come over and get a rib from me. Yeah, I did. I remember him telling me that. He said, yeah, he used to come over, and if he liked it, he'd say, that's better than Dave's, but don't tell him. He would never tell. He'd always say, you got a better rib than Dave does. My boy, you got a better rib. And Donnie told me that, and I cracked. I never knew that. So the little things that you need to remember, and that go on a billboard, you don't realize what you miss. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a great story. And I could see Donnie telling that story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, David, I want to thank you for being on here with me. It has been truly an honor. Can you tell people where they can find you online? It's pretty easy.
Sure. Absolutely. We definitely got a Facebook page for Butcher BBQ. I've got one for personal for David Bouska. We've got Pinterest. We've got Instagram. It's all Butcher BBQ. We got a Twitter page too, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not a Twitter person. But the website is www.butcherbbbq.com.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you here in the next month or so, probably out in Kansas City.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate your phone call, and thanks for being a friend.
Absolutely, buddy. I look forward to catching up.
Hey, you bet. I look forward to a package I get in about 10 days.
That's going to happen. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, bud.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and share it out with all your friends. Also be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. We will have another episode for you next week. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast is a property of Old Virginia Smoke LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2021.
OVS, Old Virginia Smoke. OVS, Old Virginia Smoke. OVS, Old Virginia Smoke.